Hello, welcome back everybody to the Animal channel and my 2020 Olympia prep. This is volume 4, so if you haven't been keeping up, you can check back the past prep videos, but I'm giving the rundown of all my diet, training, and body comp changes leading up to this 2020 Olympia. So, where were we from last time? I remember I was been doing this kind of recomping phase, and I've been stuck around this 240 mark, and body weight hadn't been moving much. And I had this hamstring injury. I just changed my training up. So just to give you all an update on all that, my body weight is coming down, which is a positive thing. So this morning I was 237. So I've actually come down 3 pounds in the past few weeks. Feel much tighter. Have better waist control, feel more lines, just really everywhere tighter. Especially for me, I usually hold a lot of body fat in my lower back, like most guys, right? I love handles. That's always the spot that can hold a lot. So I can always feel it, like when my waist starts coming down, I don't feel as much pudge back there. And I'll take caliper measurements back there too, because that keeps me really honest. I'll caliper my subscap, right below my scapula, my lower back, and my glute. Those are the largest caliper sites on me. So I'll know right away if that's increasing, body fat's coming on. It's also like one of the first places I'll start coming off. But especially on prep, like you'll usually get really tight from the front, and then it takes like below 10% body fat is when you start seeing a lot of the changes from the backside. But anyway, yeah, body weight's been coming down, which has been a positive because it's been really fighting me these past few weeks. And I think it was a combination of, for one, like dropping off some fatigue, because I had this from last time I was telling you. I ran this like kind of high volume sessions, and it really ran me into the ground. So the fatigue in itself can limit fat loss and make muscle building harder, for one. So I finally felt really recovered. And then Vu had bumped cardio up to 35 minutes, which that finally kind of like took seat and got me moving along as well. And the other thing that I've been doing has been a weekly cheat meal in heavy. It's something I never do. Like, I'm not a big cheat meal person. I don't, if I do, maybe I'll go have like a couple sushi rolls, and that's really it, go pretty light. But after that 1 week where I felt super fatigued and I injured my hamstring, I was like, man, I'm gonna get a pizza. I'm gonna eat donuts. And that's like some of my favorite stuff if I do have it. So I had a large pizza and like 5 donuts, and it felt amazing. And my weight came down a little bit the next day. And so we've just kept it in place, and it's kept me kind of moving along. My weight will come up like a couple days after, but then it'll trend back down and it'll come back down a little bit lower. And so past few days of just past few weeks just doing pizza and donuts like once a week. And now this week we've actually been able to add in food. So now my carbs were like 225, and they've been able to bump up to 275 grams of carbs. Just everything's starting to work and fire a lot more efficiently. I think it just gets me moving around more too, having a little bit more food, and then protein's still around 300 grams, fats around 45 grams on my training days. So adding more food in, weight has still been coming down, and just improved look. My off day diet is still 50 grams of carbs, 300 protein, and 75 grams of fat. But on that setup, it's been really productive, and I feel great in the gym training. I haven't had that fatigue set in. I actually think I could slowly add in a little bit of I usually like doing some extra rest pause sets on some of my isolation movements, so I think that'll be where I'll start adding just a little bit of volume, because recovery is just excellent right now. And it's been, I'm right at 5 weeks into this training block, still doing pull, push, off day, legs, off day, and that's kept me recovered just awesome. I just feel great. Every session I go in, I'm just banging down on new loads, more reps. Everything's improving well, and so I'm gonna add a little bit of volume in, but I'm gonna be very cautious in how I do so. Like I said, usually like a rest pause set on an isolation movement, it's not so systemically taxing, but I can still get a good adaptive stimulus for that localized area that I'm aiming for. But yeah, so 21 weeks out now for the Olympia. Very, very soon, which should be the next video, I will be on full-on prep, and we'll really be pulling down body weight, because I still have about 25 pounds to lose to make this 212 weight class, which it's going to be tough this year because I am pretty lean. But from a starting point, I'm super fresh. Like my hamstring injury, it's pretty well resolved. So I'm back to doing seated leg curls, lying leg curls. I pulled out RDLs, any type of deadlift variation, because that was the root cause of what really gave me the issue. So I don't want to load that lengthened phase of the hamstring yet. Or maybe not for the whole prep, honestly. I'll keep in like a hip thrust for some type of hip hinge glute movement. It trains a little bit of the hamstring and hip extension. Maybe might do a 45-degree back raise. I'm still debating on that. But really the main thing right now is rehabbing the area, making sure that I can load it in that lengthened phase safely, and do some more like functional stuff for it too. But for right now, just leg curls and glute bridge is more than enough for spinal erectors, glutes, and hams. So that's at least a really, really positive, and my shoulders feel great with pressing. Just really excited about going in this prep because that's such a good spot for me. But anyway, today is going to be a push session. So this is another rotation with a few different movements that I don't think I've ever done for a video for you guys. Which a lot of the same stuff, but I'd like to have a new movement in there, and I wanted to try something. The thing about my shoulders is I wanted to keep a lot of stabilized movements in, because rotator cuffs can get a little tweaky sometimes. So for this day, I still have always been starting with a lateral raise. For one, I think you should start with movements and muscle groups that you need to improve the most on. Even if it's an isolation movement. A side lateral, you're not really going to hit it that much like an overhead press or a flat press, really at all. So it's something that you can stimulate, and the fatigue generated from that is not going to impede your compound movements that much. So I like to hit those right away when I'm fresh, and it just kind of warms up the whole entire shoulder complex. So it feels a little better going into pressing. But start with a dumbbell lateral. I know there's a lot of critiques you can make about a dumbbell lateral, that you only get tension at the top of the movement. But it is somewhat intentional, because you can get a movement where you can get the muscle short easily. And then I also like just favor just controlling them really well through the eccentric phase. So it's a good like first movement when the muscle's still fresh. So if you're doing something like later on in the session, it's harder to get the muscle short, because that's its weakest point. So that's when you might later on, if you need to do some type of like machine lateral, cable lateral, I think that would be a good application there. Sometimes starting with a cable lateral first, that is what kind of bothers my shoulder. So at least dumbbells, laterals, they've worked well starting with. But I'll work up to a set of 15 reps, and then I will drop weight to stay within that rep range. So I think I went from 50s down to 40 pounds, and then I'll stay with those 40 pounds for 2 more sets. So I did 3 sets total on that movement. Then move into my compound pressing movement. So I don't have any direct overhead pressing anymore, but I do this hammer strength incline press, and I'll work up to a set of 6 to 10 reps, then do my back off set. So usually I'm dropping off about 25%, 30% load, and hitting 10 to 15 reps from there. So that was kind of that's what I count as my front delt and upper pec movement. And so that is my overhead press. It's not overhead press, but that's what would be in place if you had like awesome shoulder health and like overhead press didn't bother you at all. That's when I would put your overhead press. Then from there, I move on to a new one that I haven't done for quite a while, and I don't even know the name of this machine. We've had in the gym, I think it's like 20 years old, and it's a plate-loaded flat chest press. There's other ones around. It's nothing unique. Kind of a pain in the ass to get into, but it does has a nice profile to it, and it feels good. I wish it had a little bit of abduction to it, but nonetheless, it's a nice flat press variation, which serves for my chest movement for the day. So same thing, work up to 6 to 10 reps, and then back off for a back off set of 10 to 15 reps. In all these movements, like I really try to control the eccentric. I mean, that's what you probably notice. And for me, I have a very hard time having a good chest connection. So that controlled eccentric, it really helps me to keep engaged and make sure I'm not letting my delts take over. And I am like giving a slight squeeze, trying to pull the handles together the entire time. So it keeps kind of that abduction tension in the movement and keeps my pecs engaged well. So I'm trying to be very mindful of my pressing. After that, I move on to the Smith machine and do a close grip bench press. So this is my tricep compound movement. I like the Smith machine. A lot of times I train by myself, so I can rack it easy if stuff gets a little bit precarious. Also, it's still very well stabilized, so I'm not having to stabilize a barbell, and I can just run with it. And so this one will be, again, 6 to 10 reps, then run down to a back off set and hit something 10 to 15 from there. That's my trend always on my sets. And when would I ever add like a third set to a compound? And potentially, yeah, if it was something that I really want to improve on. It's something you need to do, like I advise you like adding like one set to a whole entire workout, just so you can really gauge what your fatigue is from doing it. If you're trying to add sets all over the place, like you could dig yourself in a hole quick. So I think the best practice is like, say you wanted more tricep work and you triceps were a weak point, you could definitely add in like a third set off your back off set. You could even do a rest pause set since you're in the Smith machine. I think that would be a safe spot to do, or a drop set if you want to be time saving. I prefer the rest pause if anything, but then also if you want to bring triceps up, the first thing I would move your exercise selection around. So I've had guys with like really bad triceps and making their tricep press like the first movement of the day. But for most people, I think having it like a second or third movement is your best bet. But from there, then I move on to my pec isolation work and then also tricep isolation work. So I'm just doing just a cable fly and standing. A lot of times I like to do them seated so I can really pin down the scapula and get more stabilized. I favor stuff like that. I've been lazy to set up the bench, to be honest, so I just did them standing today. But through the years, like the connection I've been able to develop has been well with it, so I'm not opposed to standing to it. And also, I've had some issues within my shoulders, and part of it was from a weak serratus, which your serratus helps with protraction of the scapulas, helps like pull the scapulas around. So in that standing cable fly, you're kind of like hugging the tree, and it helps train your serratus a little bit too. So that's been part of my rehab protocol that my rehab specialist, Justin Reyna, has been wanting me to do. So standing Pec Deck Fly is what's in place, and hitting a set of 15 to 20 reps, and then I'll just stay with the same weight and let the reps drop just because fatigue is there. Then the last movement we'll go to for the day is a tricep extension, which this one is a new one, and I was doing it on the I forget which machine, like the name of the brand, but basically I pull all the pads off and use what usually is a bilateral extension machine, and I do it single arm. Single arm because I can really position myself well, so I'm trying to get my wrist, elbow, and shoulder all in perfect line to be very ergonomic and mechanical. And usually a lot of times with skull crushers, they bother me because it kind of binds my elbow from lack of shoulder mobility. So this way I can really line all the joints up and focus just single arm. And a lot of times with that machine, you're like fighting your abs. It's like you're doing an abdominal crunch at the same damn time and trying to do both arms. So I did single arm so I don't have to worry so much about core bracing. And man, this one wrecks. You can get good tension throughout the full range. It loads the lengthen phase really well, and my triceps get so sore from it. So it's definitely focusing on the area that I really want to develop. So on this one, I work up, I do a set of like 10 to 12 reps. Again, I back off in weight, and then I do a rest pause set on my back off set. So I'll hit somewhere between 10 to 15 reps again, rest about 20 seconds, then go back again and get to like a failure set. So that was the setup on my push day. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy these Olympia prep videos. Any questions, please leave them below. I'll be happy to answer them like always. And we will talk to you next time.
BP Muscle ตัวแทนนำเข้าและจัดจำหน่ายผลิตภัณฑ์อาหารเสริมแบรนด์ Animal และ Universal รวมไปถึงอุปกรณ์ฟิตเนสแบรนด์ Grizzly อย่างเป็นทางการแต่เพียงผู้เดียว